Ferrari bet everything on signing Hamilton in 2025, but is their problem really the driver or the car? This is the story of an SF-25 struggling to find its place on the grid, of questionable technical decisions, and a season that could redefine the future of the Scuderia. The 2025 Formula One season promised to be revolutionary for Ferrari. The Scuderia, with a history steeped in glory, was determined to return to the top of world motorsport, and to achieve this, they made a high-impact move, signing seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. This decision was more than just a signing, it was a statement of intent. Hamilton's name carries a narrative of success, perseverance, and excellence that Ferrari wanted to incorporate into its DNA after years of ups and downs and unfulfilled promises. In Maranello, the Briton's arrival was celebrated as the beginning of a new era. From the very beginning, an atmosphere of immense expectation was generated. The Italian media spoke of a historic alliance, sponsors increased their investment, and the fan base was fired up with excitement. The idea of seeing Hamilton wearing red was not only powerful symbolically, but also strategically. The experience of a driver with more than a decade in the elite would help shape both the car's development and the mentality of a team that had lost the habit of winning. However, reality hit hard. From the inaugural Grand Prix in Australia, it was clear that the SF-25, Ferrari's new car, was not ready to deliver on the winter's promise. Hamilton, accustomed to a meticulously optimized work environment like Mercedes, found himself with a car that responded erratically to his input. Beyond the numbers, a fourth-row qualifying finish, just 1 point scored, and a stumbling and lackluster race. The problem lay deeper. The car didn't allow the driver to fully exploit his strengths. Adaptation was another critical point. Despite his enormous talent, Hamilton didn't immediately establish a natural connection with the SF-25. This was partly because his traditional driving style of aggressive braking and quick turns didn't mesh well with a car that demanded pinpoint precision to fit into the narrow operating window it offered. He had to start changing his approach, something he hadn't done in years. He observed Leclerc, who seemed more comfortable in certain conditions, and began adjusting his style, releasing the throttle earlier, seeking more fluidity, being less reactive with the pedals. But even with these adjustments, the result was frustrating. Ultimately, what this first act of the season revealed was that not even the best driver of the century could overcome, through sheer talent, the structural deficiencies of a car compromised from its conception. Internally, the team was working at a forced pace, but the feeling was that they had arrived at the first Grand Prix with a weapon still unsharpened. Ferrari, which had promised to be in the fight from the start, was forced to explain itself and temper expectations. The press, which had praised Hamilton's signing, was beginning to question whether they could really offer him a car worthy of his ambitions. And amidst it all, Hamilton maintained a serene, if introspective, demeanor. He spoke respectfully of the team, but his gestures and statements reflected a contained disappointment. He hadn't come to Ferrari to survive, but to fight for the championship. And what he found was a mountain that may be steeper than anyone imagined. This first chapter of his time in red wasn't the triumphant entry many had dreamed of, but rather the beginning of an odyssey fraught with uncertainty. When talking about a team like Ferrari, one tends to think of a car that represents the pinnacle of engineering, a car that by nature should be among the fastest in the world. But the 2025 season has been brutally honest in revealing that history is no guarantee of performance. The SF-25, far from being the untamed beast many expected, has displayed a series of technical shortcomings that are severely limiting its possibilities, even in the hands of a driver like Lewis Hamilton. The first thing to understand is that the SF-25 is an extremely delicate car. Technically, it's not broken. It's not a car that's falling apart or suffering from catastrophic reliability issues. The problem is more subtle and for that very reason more insidious. The SF-25 has a ridiculously narrow operating window. This means it only performs well under very specific conditions, a precise combination of track temperature, tire pressure, car height, and downforce. If anything falls outside that optimal range, the car simply loses its competitiveness immediately. One of the critical points of the SF-25's design is its aerodynamic map. According to experts like Matteo Bobbi, the car loses an alarming amount of downforce with minimal changes in ground clearance. To put this in perspective, on a well-designed car, a 1 mm change in chassis height can mean the loss of 1 or 2 downforce points. In the case of the SF-25, that loss can be as much as 15 points. This forces the team to run extremely precise setups, resulting in unpredictable behavior during the race. Any bump, wrong corner, or error in tire pressure can turn a competitive car into a disaster. This problem was further exacerbated by Ferrari's decision to postpone the planned updates for Miami. Instead of introducing improvements during the sprint format GP, they decided to wait until Imola. The logic behind this decision makes technical sense. The sprint format leaves little time to test new parts, with only 1 hour of practice before qualifying. But in a season where every point counts, every 10th lost can cost key positions. And Ferrari was already starting from the back. The risk was obvious. Keeping a car with known problems without making improvements made it an easy target for rivals like McLaren, Mercedes, and even Red Bull. In Bahrain, Ferrari attempted an early correction by introducing a new floor, a modification that wasn't part of the initial plan. It was a patch, a way to try to gain some extra performance without dramatically altering the car's basic concept. And while this intervention showed signs of improvement, it also highlighted how far the SF-25 was from its potential. It was a reactive response, not a planned evolution. The most worrying thing about all this is that these deficiencies don't just affect the car's performance, but completely distort the flow of the race weekend. Engineers can't focus on strategies, getting the most out of the setup, or adapting the car to each driver. Instead, they must spend time and resources simply trying to get the SF-25 to operate within its narrow tolerances. That leaves drivers, especially someone like Hamilton who is still adapting, in a vulnerable and frustrating position. It's like running a marathon with your shoelaces untied. Added to all this is external pressure. From the press to the fans, everyone expects immediate results. But engineering doesn't respond to impatience. Right now, Ferrari is not only battling its rivals, but also the ghosts of its own mistakes. Design errors, planning errors, and execution errors. The SF-25 was supposed to be the car that marked Ferrari's return to the top. For now, it has only served as a reminder of how easy it is to slip into technical mediocrity, even with the finest human talent at the wheel. And the clock is already ticking. In the heart of Maranello, the walls of Ferrari's headquarters reverberate with the pressure of unmet expectations. In the halls that once hosted legendary championships, there is now a disturbing mix of anxiety and urgency. And at the center of this storm is Lewis Hamilton, a driver who didn't come to Ferrari to score symbolic points or enjoy some final stage motorsport tourism. He came to win. And that victory these days seems more like a mirage than an achievable goal. The internal atmosphere at Ferrari has become increasingly tense with each race. The lack of results not only erodes fans' confidence but also undermines the team's cohesion. From engineers to strategists, including the coaching staff and Fred Vasseur's leadership, everyone is under the microscope. In every technical meeting, in every post-race analysis session, the tone has changed. What was once enthusiasm is now mixed with concern. And that inevitably reaches the drivers. Hamilton, despite his experience, is not immune to this tension. His gestures, his words, and above all, his body language reflect the weight of a promise still unfulfilled. In recent interviews, he has displayed measured patience, aware that openly criticizing the team could backfire. But between the lines, it's clear that the 7-time champion expected a different reality. His adaptation process has been cut short not by a lack of will, but by the inability to build consistency with such a limited car. Even when he managed to get close to Leclerc's pace in qualifying, the race brought him back to the harsh reality of a car that simply wasn't up to par with his talent. For Charles Leclerc, the situation is no simpler. The Monégasque, who in theory should benefit from his familiarity with the team and the car, has also had to deal with a car that punishes him for even the smallest mistakes. The internal competition, far from being a positive motivation, is beginning to turn into a silent battle to not be the first to break. Both know that at Ferrari, like nowhere else, the past matters little and the present is everything. And in that present, results don't come. Ferrari management, for its part, faces a crossroads. The delay in updates, although technically justifiable, has cast doubt on the team's ability to make bold decisions when they are most needed. And in Formula One, perception matters as much as reality. If other teams perceive weakness at Maranello, that fragility becomes the dominant narrative. McLaren, Mercedes, and even Red Bull, despite their own problems, see Ferrari not as an established threat, but as an unstable giant. In this context, any strategic error, any technical failure, is amplified. And the question begins to swirl not only within the paddock, but also among fans. Is this a lost year for Ferrari? Is the cycle of high expectations followed by structural disappointments repeating itself? The real concern, however, is the future. If Hamilton doesn't find competitiveness at Ferrari in the short term, his permanence beyond his initial contract becomes a mystery. Will he be willing to continue investing in a project that shows no clear signs of tangible evolution? Will Ferrari be able to retain Leclerc if another team offers him a truly winning car? The consequences of 2025 could extend far beyond this season. Ferrari isn't just fighting for victories. It's fighting to maintain its identity, its credibility, and its relevance. Because every race that passes without podiums or victories is a reminder that a name isn't enough. History doesn't win championships. Results do. And now that we've unpacked Ferrari's complex 2025 landscape layer by layer, it's time to look ahead with a question all motorsport fans are asking. Does this team have the tools, leadership, and mentality to turn this situation around before it's too late? We're not talking about simple technical updates or waiting for aerodynamic miracles. We're talking about a profound cultural transformation within Formula One's most iconic team. One that requires brave decisions, firm leadership, and a clear understanding that talent alone doesn't win championships. Ferrari has two of the best drivers in the world. It has a technical foundation with potential. It has the resources. But what's at stake now is its ability to execute under pressure, to innovate without losing its identity, and above all, to learn from its mistakes in real time. And this is where you come in, as part of this global community that lives and breathes F1. Because what happens on the track is only part of the story. The other, equally important part is the conversation we generate outside of it. Do you think Ferrari will find the right path this season? Do you think Hamilton will take the reins of the team and lead it back to the top? Or are we seeing the beginning of a new cycle of frustration for the prancing horse? Your voice matters. Your opinions, your analysis, and your passion fuel this space we share. So let me know in the comments what your vision is for Ferrari's future. Is there real hope, or is this just another wishful thinking? And if this analysis provided you with value, please consider subscribing and activating notifications. Here we'll continue to cover every twist, every change in strategy, and every second that defines the 2025 season. Because if Formula One teaches us anything, it's that everything can change in an instant. But only if you're really paying attention will you understand why.